It's 7 o'clock. We'll call the regular meeting of the Hudsonville Public Schools Board of Education to order. Thanks everyone for being here on this nice summer evening. I know my junior in high school let me know yesterday that it was a little warm in the top floor of the high school. So, but you know, said it'll be cool tomorrow or next week. So. Okay, we have all board members here this evening, all present. So we'll move on to approval of the agenda. May I have a motion, please? Motion by Chad Tuttle to approve the agenda. Support from Steve Bowerman. Any comments, questions, clarifications on the agenda? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. We move next to board recognition, and we have our high school robotics team with us here this evening. So, are you kicking us off, Dr. Bridger?
So, we'd like to spend just a minute here to recognize our robotics young men that have not only done well at a regional level, state level, but at a national level. So if that's okay, I'm going to turn the mic over to Pete, and maybe you can say a few words about the kids, and then we have some recognition from Representative Slaw that I know is here, but the lights are bright. There he is, over there. So.
Yeah, thank you for this inviting us here today. Just want to share a little bit about the robotics program. We've been involved in the Hudsonville Public Schools since 2014. More than 300 kids have gone through our program. Currently, we support students starting in fifth grade all the way up to a senior in high school. It's a program that, while it's based on creativity and design and following the engineering design process, part of that it requires collaboration. It requires a lot of intense teamwork, and so it's fantastic to watch these students do what they need to do in order to accomplish the goals that they're trying to accomplish. The difficulty is that every year we share with our kids a 100-page rule book. And the thing is that the two types of entrepreneurs that come out of our robotics program are engineers and attorneys. So they're either very good at designing and putting it together, or they're really good at combing through this notebook and identifying every single rule and how they can exploit that rule to take the most advantage of the robot. With that, it comes with an instruction book. So we give them an instruction book every year. But if you look at this instruction book, it's blank. And the thing is as a mentor, as a team, as a person who works really hard for these kids to succeed, I'm not allowed to tell them how to do it. I can't advise them how to strategize. I can't tell them how to win. The only way that they can solve their problems is either they can research them and identify what the challenges are, or the gray area, they're allowed to ask me questions. So if they're curious about something, they're more than welcome to come and ask me questions, and I will be more than happy to share my opinion with them. So these boys are a fantastic group. The team is 8031E. They've made it all the way through regional as well as the state championship. They've been down to Dallas, Texas just a few weeks ago to compete in the world tournament. Our teams did very well. High school is very tough when you're competing against 40 other nations from throughout the world. So they weren't exactly the top in the group, but they all did very well. I will also note that we had a middle school team at the world tournament who was a division finalist. So over Riley, some of those students did a fantastic job, and they are the division finalists. So we're really proud of all these kids. We had about 60 kids in our program this year, and it's just fantastic to see them grow. And now we're starting to see more and more of our students graduate and head out into the world and get involved in either business or college opportunities.
Thanks, Pete. We really appreciate not only your leadership, but your commitment to the program. For those of you that have been paying close attention to the construction on this facility, we're looking forward to, and I apologize to these young men who might not get to experience it, but the current high school office will turn into a robotics suite moving forward with classroom space, competition space, training space, storage space, which will be a nice avenue for them to live and breathe and work this robotics avenue, not only outside of the school day, but during the school day also. So I appreciate your dedication to the program. It is greatly appreciated. I know our kids appreciate it. I have a niece in the robotics program in Indiana that went to the Worlds also, and our team did better than hers, and I had to tell her that we did better. So congratulations to these gentlemen. If we could maybe recognize the four of them. We have certificates for you, and maybe I could ask Representative Slaw to say a word about the recognition that they would also like to provide to these young men.
So thank you for allowing me to spend just a moment congratulating the team and Hudsonville as a whole. Obviously, when we've got young men who are going around and winning at national championship kind of levels, we can be proud of that as a community, and so we are definitely part of that. What I've got is a tribute from the state of Michigan that includes the governor, the lieutenant governor signature, as well as Roger Victory and myself. And we just wanted to congratulate it's not only the kids, it's the mentors, it's the business partners, it's the folks who spend an incredible number of hours all the way back from September to win at that kind of level. And so we're just really proud of them. And I'll just mention their names because I've got a chance. From Team 8031E was senior Jacob McCrae. Craig. Joshua DeBoer and Tucker Wolf, and then Samuel Moorhead. So we just congratulate the team.
Representative Slaw, we would get you to come up here and Pete, can you come up here? Sure.
Do we have to do this, right? That's what you think. All right. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Well, that's very exciting, and there's a couple of us on the board, I won't say who, that are engineers, and so we get we get very excited about robotics and kids doing robotics and going into engineering and all that kind of fun stuff. So congratulations again. As a district, we're very, very proud of you all. Okay, now we move on to another recognition, but Andy, you've got to earn your recognition before we give it to you. So we'll do the student council report, please, and then we'd like to recognize you as this is your last month with us, right? Yep.
Earlier this month, our next year's executive board took a field trip to a leadership conference in Wyoming. They met other students who were involved with the same activities we were, and they discussed everything student council related. So it was really cool to see them for next year and pictures and everything. This past week we had Staff Appreciation Week, and our Teacher Appreciation Committee contributed a whole bunch of fun activities and projects per day for our amazing teachers. We are also celebrating our lunch ladies this Friday. Some upcoming events we have are the week of May 23. We are having a Renaissance Recognition Ice Cream Social during lunches over the course of 3 days. We have to do this just because there's so many students on Renaissance, which is awesome. We actually have 2 final summer blood drives, June 9 and August 10. And as of this past Tuesday, us seniors are officially done with student council and almost done with the school year. I just wanted to thank you guys, and this has been an awesome year and an amazing experience.
Well, Annie, we very much appreciate the information you've shared in such a professional and clear and succinct manner. I mean, we've just enjoyed you being here all year long with us to share what's up with the student council and what's going on in the high school. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And we do have a token of our appreciation,
Okay. Aw.
a book that many of us are familiar with about, what's next in life. So we'd like to recognize that for you and give that to you.
And I really appreciate not only what you do for the student body in Hudsonville and particularly the high school, but your communication with the board. You'll do amazing things in your future. We wish you all the best. I do also appreciate your work with us as we talk about branding of the school. We kind of pulled you into some other committee work, and so I appreciate that. There's some nice notes in this little book for you to realize that maybe years from now you'll look back and realize the impact that you did leave, not only on the Board of Education, but on the district as a whole. So thank you for your leadership and what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Always fun to recognize our students who do such a wonderful job. So, okay, we move on now to action items. First up is the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda items? Motion by Dawn Stephen. Support from Barb Hooper. Questions or comments on the consent agenda items? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we move on to regular action agenda items. First up, we have the Ottawa Area Intermediate School District General Fund Budget Resolution. Pat's got this one, okay?
Thank you. So as part of the state law, basically state budget law, the ISD is required to present their budget to all of the local school districts, the general fund only. This happens every year, and then the local boards are asked to take action on that, affirm or support or not support. The ISD, this is only the general fund. They have most of their business flows through their other funds, their special ed fund and their tech ed fund. But this budget they budgeted for a $218,000 deficit, and I talked to their director. There are really no unusual items this year. I didn't see any unusual items in the budget, and my recommendation is that the board support this.
Okay, I know it was sent out before the meeting, and we've had a week or a few days to review it. So may I have a motion, please, to approve the 2022-23 Ottawa Intermediate School District General Fund budget as reviewed by Mr. Briggs. Motion by Steve Bowerman. Support from Mike Davis. Any questions or comments from the board?
I would say this is the first year that there was such a great summary attached to it. And I think they have a relatively new individual, superintendent, yes.
Yep.
So let him know, greatly appreciated the summary attached with the graphs. It made it much more sensible for people who aren't working with their type of budget all the time.
Will. Thank you. Great point. Other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, next up we have security system renovation bid recommendation. And Patrick, are you taking this as well?
Yes, thank you. As we reviewed in some detail at the work session, we are in need to replace the system. I use this prop again. The system that supports our security tokens district-wide. This project involves not only the badges, but the software, the things back in the closet on our current legacy system. We've had it for, well over a decade, and we, also present here, Carl from Communication by Design, their firm, put together a really nice set of documentation. We got good bids. Actually, the base bid was more than $75,000 below what we expected. This is a bond project, and so we're roughly halfway through spending the just over $8 million technology allocation in the bond budget. So we're happy with Parkway's performed on other projects, Parkway Electric, and they performed well. And our recommendation is to go with Parkway for the amount in the resolution.
Okay, can I have a motion, please, that the board approve a contract with Parkway Electric of Holland in the amount of $530,037.90 for the security system renovations to be paid from the bond proceeds.
So moved.
Motion by Don Sneeden.
Support.
Support from Larry Keppinga. Questions or comments? I know we had a chance to dig into this at the work session, but other questions or comments? We appreciate all the help and support in figuring this all out. It was time to update things, so as we've talked about before. Okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we move on to Second Life MAC settlement. Again, Patrick?
Yes, just the, as recommended by our attorney and reviewed, we are recommending that we accept Second Life MAC's offer of $70,000 to fulfill their commitment to our contract.
Okay, can I have a motion that the board move to ratify acceptance of $70,000 to resolve contract issues with Second MAC Life as reviewed by Pat Briggs this evening and then again in our work session?
I'll move that.
Motion by Mark Davis. Support from Steve Bowerman. Questions or comments from the board? All in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, next we move on to auditor selection. Again, Mr. Briggs.
Thank you. Also reviewed in the work session was our process to review proposals from Maynard Costerison and Plant Moran, our current auditors, for audit services for the next 4 years. Maynard Costerison was the proposed lowest, they gave us the lowest quote of $41,500 for the first year of that term. And so our recommendation is to go with Maynard Costerison, and then if they are successful, we would renew for each of 3 successive years. And also in the recommendation is that in the board's summer incorporation resolution that Maynard Costerison be named as the audit firm.
Okay, may I have a motion, please, that the board approve the recommendation to select Maynard Costerison as the financial statement audit firm for the 2021 and 2022 fiscal years for $41,500, and then going forward as described by Mr. Briggs. Motion by Barb Hooper.
Support.
Support from Vaughn Sneeden. Questions or comments from the board? We had a chance to dig into this at the last work session, so. Okay, a motion's on the table. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Briggs. We move on next to board policy additions and revisions.
We have a few policies before you that were discussed at the last work session. Having no recommendation for changes at this point, I'd like to present this as a first reading for these policies. Most of these are reviewed because of the changes in federal funds and how they have to be reviewed and so forth. So this is a request of first reading of these policies. If there are recommendations after this, we'll take a look at those and then bring that back for a second reading, hopefully adoption at a future board meeting. So that is our recommendation.
I have a motion that the board approve the first reading of the revisions to the board policies as listed below and presented by Dr. Benajak.
So moved.
Motion by Steve Bauerman,
Support.
support from Chad Tuttle. Questions, comments from the board? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we move on to many human resource items. Ann?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight I have several recommendations to the board for hire. First, I would like to start with Caitlin Shurin, and I know I said that wrong.
No, you're fine.
I apologize. We're lucky to get Katie. Katie is currently, or I think she just graduated, but was doing a student teaching with Emma Eisman in our EL program. But we have snuck in and grabbed her to be an ELA teacher at Baldwin, which will be just a great mesh of what we need within our EL programming and then also with our ELA. So we're very excited, and congratulations on recent graduation and all that kind of good stuff. Next, I have Brian DePatti. And if you are here and you hear your name, feel free to stand. Thank you very much. Brian DePatti has been working for the past 4 years at Link Learning, which is an alternative high school programming to help students that are on a non-traditional route to graduate. But prior to that, he taught 3 years of 8th grade ELA out in Colorado, so we're super excited to get him to be an ELA teacher at Riley. Next, Danny Goodite. Danielle is not here tonight because she's currently teaching in Florida. But her first semester, she was a student teacher with Kelly Irish here at the high school. And then she took a job down in Florida, and we were able to observe her teaching when she was here with Kelly, but then reached out to us in an application for another ELA position that we had open at Baldwin. And we're really excited to see her come back to Michigan. Next, I have actually a recommendation for hire for Hudsonville Christian Shared Time. We have a staff member that's leaving. This is a 0.54 FTE, and is a recommendation from Superintendent over there, Devin Brinks, and Matthew Borst is coming from Allendale for a PE position at Hudsonville Christian Shared Time. And oh, there you are, great, I'm so excited, thank you, sorry about that. Next, we have Stacy Person. Stacy is also an out-of-state candidate. Stacy went to Baldwin, and I loved it during the demo. She showed up, and I knew she was there to win it because she she was all decked out in navy and yellow and had Baldwin earrings on, and she just did this really cool science experiment with 6th graders that I think there was like 17 boys and 3 girls in the class, and she, I mean, everything. She was had them glued. So super excited to see what she does there in science at Baldwin, and coming from 7th grade science in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Next, we have for some counseling recommendations, we have Carolyn Herman. Yep. Carolyn has been a counselor in Lansing Eastern since around 2016, has been doing some online counseling for their school within the pandemic, and we're really excited to get her. Her dad is a longtime bus driver for our district as well, so we like to keep it in the family, so we're super excited to bring Carolyn back over here. Next, I have Emily Rasmussen for counselor at, did I say Carolyn? I think I might have said Carolyn at Baldwin, and I apologize, it's Riley if I misspoke that. Because Emily Rasmussen, we are recommending for Baldwin counseling. And Emily just recently kind of graduated her program, and she's in Pottersville, currently finished out this semester, and will be coming next fall to Hudsonville upon your approval. Next, we have Adam Nelson. Hey, Adam. Adam is currently, or has student taught with Matt Merriman here at the high school, and Dave and Nord and I often talk, because Dave does a lot of the student teaching kind of guidance and counseling with Grand Valley. And he's one, high school has been so impressed with Adam from the get-go. Dave was like, "You're crazy if you don't grab Adam." And I was like, "Oh, no, trust me, we've heard." So very excited to have Adam come and teach math for us next year at the high school. And then the next two positions are people that we know. But these are going to be people that are going to slide into some positions that we have been creating and just are still filling. So these are internal faces that you'll recognize. So we have Diana Juice-Burns, who is a 6-year teacher here in Hudsonville at Park Elementary in 4th grade. Just is a phenomenal teacher, and is going to be taking over the PBIS position because of Heather Stauffer going to that special ed coordinator position. Sorry. And then once again from Park, we're going to have Angie Faraci come in. She's finishing her 22nd year here at Park. Well, maybe not all at Park, but in 3rd grade at Park currently. And Angie just has such a love of learning for herself. I'm always so impressed with her, going back to school and just always wanting to better her own practice. And I just think she's going to do an amazing job in the MTSS interventionist position. So those are my recommendations to hire.
Okay, can I have a motion, please, that the board approve the new certified hires as recommended by Ian Armstrong?
So moved.
Motion by Larry Kappengut. Support from Chad Tuttle. Questions, comments from the board while we have them all here? We are very excited to have those of you who are new to the district to be part of the Hudsonville family and help us to continue to strive and push toward our goal of academic excellence. And you're part of the Hudsonville team now, and again, we look for great things from you all as you continue to help us, again, achieve the academic excellence that we are expecting of ourselves and of our students. And those that are changing positions, again, we heard that, obviously, and aware of that, and I'm very excited for you in the new positions as well. And then also our friend at Hudsonville Christian Middle School. Again, congratulations, and again, we look forward to working with you as we go forward as well. Great relationship between our Christian schools and our middle schools in the areas. Our high school, our school district, public school in the area. So welcome all and congratulations. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Congratulations. Okay, I think we're skipping the next section, aren't we, Ian?
We'd like to.
I'm kidding.
I was like,
retirement. No, retirement. We're going to skip that.
Oh, it's been
I see Mrs. Walenta back there. You know what? She can't go. She has to stay.
I know,
Go
this
ahead.
is such a bittersweet but so exciting time of the year. And we unfortunately couldn't get everybody here tonight, but I'm excited to celebrate everybody because we're still going to say great words about all. So I'm first going to introduce Bill Ross to come up to the podium so he could talk about some special people to be recognized from Riley Street.
Good evening, Dr. Vanderjet, President Hall, members of the board. I have the honor to talk about 4 of my teammates tonight. And it's nothing better to be on a good team, so it's going to be hard to lose the 4 of them. But let me share some stories and celebrate the retirement of 4 quality educators. First off, I want to talk about Rich Cornuglia. Rich Cornuglia was the founding principal at Riley Street Middle School, and I want to thank Rich. I've only met Rich about 2 or 3 times. I want to thank Rich for bringing Connie, Lori, Pam, and Chris to Riley. They're outstanding educators, and Rich knew that when he was starting this middle school down in Jamestown, and I've been blessed and have benefited from that. So thank you, Rich, for bringing the 4 of them to the team. Let me talk about Chris Westfeld for you for a minute. One word that comes to mind when I think of Chris is dedicated. I think in education too often we assume teachers are dedicated. Chris is a dedicated teacher. If you were a student in her class, you would always know what to expect, not only of yourself, but what she would expect of you as a student. Chris, I've always appreciated, has embraced literacy in her classroom. It's been important to her. I've always enjoyed listening to her design and implement lessons around literacy, but more importantly, just the idea that how she would come alongside kids when they were reading and inquire about what they were reading and make what they were reading important. And so that was something I've always valued as I observed Chris in the classroom. Chris is an extremely versatile teacher as well. There's not many teachers that have an ELA cert and a PE cert. So this allows her to dress down. I know she appreciates that. But again, Chris has been extremely versatile as a teacher for us, teaching physical education and language arts. One thing I've appreciated about Chris too is her dedication to her teaching partner, Molly Geikema. Over the last 10 years, they've just locked arms together and done the work together, which is hard right now. And Chris and Molly have just been a great example of that. Many of you have participated in our business showcase. That's Chris and Molly's, really their idea. That's kind of come to fruition at Riley. So thank you, Chris, for what you've done to serve our students at Riley. So, and I'm not sure, you want me to stop after each one, or? All right, so let's have Chris Westwell come up. Let's give her a round of applause. I failed to mention a few things about Chris. This will be her 33rd year in education. She is a 6th grade expert, 32 years with 6th graders. That means she understands 11 and 12-year-olds. Fun fact about Chris, she also spent a year as a secretary and substitute teacher at Bauer. I didn't know that until the last week, and I've known Chris a while, so thank you, Chris. Next one of my teammates I'd like to talk about is Pam Wise. Pam, when I think of Pam, I think of committed. Pam's the teacher, the last car in the parking lot type of teacher. Pam's getting her classroom ready, getting herself ready for the next day. Simply put, I think for Pam, what stands out for me is she was something to all those, she meant something to all those kids that always needed a little more. She was the teacher that was always trying to find this approach or this strategy to help every student in her classroom. And that was just something that, as you see that play out with 11 and 12-year-olds, it's special to see that kids felt cared for and supported in her classroom. Pam was a mentor to teachers. Every year when we have new staff, we're asked to identify a mentor, and I felt like every year I was asking Pam to mentor, but Pam understood this profession. She understood the professionalism that it required to do this job well. Pam, like Chris, has really locked arms with her teaching partner, Sydney Crosby, and they've done some significant work together around a new curriculum. So it's just been really exciting to see Pam's career. I've worked with all 4 of them that I'm going to talk about tonight for about half of my career. And Pam's somebody I've learned a lot from over the last several years. Pam was a big part of our school improvement team. Pam always had a way to look at things, but not just offer criticism, but always come with ideas and suggestions and solutions. Pam was the voice you always wanted to listen to. And I still remember my first day as principal at Riley. I stood in the hallway outside of Pam's room. This is almost 15 years ago. First time principal. 7:50 on the clock in the morning. I'm in the middle of the hallway and every kid's in class. And Pam looks at me, she says, "Go back to your office, we got it up here." And so it's just, Pam was just that real down-to-earth person that would kind of tell you what you needed to hear, but somebody that you always listened to and supported. So Pam, thanks so much for what you've done for our families at Riley, our students at Riley. Pam has worked 33 and a half years in public education, 32 in this district. Prior to coming to Riley, she served for 10 years at South Elementary. Congratulations, Pam. Thank you for all you've done. Few notes here. Lori Humphrey is the next teammate of mine I'd like to talk about. Lori has taught public education for 33 years prior to coming to Riley. She taught right here in this building at Hudsonville High School. She taught English and French here at the high school. The one word I think about with Lori is the word creative. You walk by Lori's room, you're hearing poetry, you're seeing kids engage in skits, lip syncs, creative writing experiences. We would often call on Lori to design and implement exploratory courses, and Lori always came with fresh ideas, creative ideas, things that would challenge kids and support kids within the English language arts curriculum. When I think of Lori and her career, I think about kids that will go to Lori's class. I think Lori always created a safe place for all students, where kids felt welcome and supported. Within the work they were going to do together, Lori easily makes connections with kids, and that's something that we value in our educators. Lori, I'll remember Lori for just always being an advocate for strong literacy programs, both at the enrichment and accelerated level for kids who needed that, but also at the support level for kids that needed just some additional time and support. Lori, I want to thank you for all you've done for our students at Riley. Thank you for a great career. Come on up here, Lori. We're going to... One of my teammates couldn't be here tonight, Connie Brady. Connie Brady has served this district for 27 years as a math teacher and guidance counselor. When I came to Riley, I was a pretty green principal, and I think about people that have helped me along my journey to be successful. It's Connie. Connie has a skill set, a vast skill set. If it's student information systems, master schedule, planning, but also understands the needs of this age group of children at Riley. We're going to miss Connie. Connie is just that staff member that everybody on staff goes to when they have a question. I think we all have those people in our life, but if you need something or if you have a question, everybody says go to Connie. And Connie usually has the answer, but if she doesn't, she finds that answer for you. Connie will be missed in many, many ways. She's built our guidance program at Riley. She's mentored our new staff members at Riley. But most importantly, she's taking care of our kids at Riley, which is the most important thing our guidance counselors do every day. So Connie's not here tonight. She's at her goddaughter's musical recital at Cornerstone. I know she appreciates the support of the board and the work that you've done to support the guidance programs within our school. So Connie Brady will clap for her. She's not here, but
All right, next we'll stick with the middle school theme, so I'll have Ryan Creek come up.
Good evening, board. Thank you. I have the privilege of talking about a staff member who I've only had the privilege of knowing for the last school year, but someone who has been a part of the Hudsonville family for 34 years. He's been an educator for 37 years, served 3 years in Texas before moving north to be a Michigander. That staff member is Jeff Henderson. He'll be retiring from our ELA department. And when I think about one word that describes Jeff, that word is faithful. Faithful to his family and family first, and just wears that on his shoulder every day in our building. He is also faithful to his students. When you walk by Jeff's room, it's a culture of that family first, and one of our core values at the middle school is family, and Jeff is a true representation of that. He has coached, started in 1988, coaching wrestling, and he has coached cross country and tennis for the middle school as well. Just creates that family feel for all of our students, both athletically and academically. Has been a tremendous mentor to several new teachers in our building, and has been a true instrument in guiding the work of our ELA department and the work that they do each and every day. So Jeff will be dearly missed, and congratulations.
All right, staying with secondary, I'll have Jordan Beal.
Good evening, everyone. It's a privilege to be here. I get to talk about Paul Tenbrink, who's been here for 31 years and creates such a culture and an atmosphere of welcomeness for his students. He's right down the hallway here around the corner. Love going into the classroom and seeing how he teaches and interacts with his students. He's going to be greatly missed. He came to me a while back to let me know he was going to retire. And I reacted with a sigh, and then I said, congratulations. And he told me that was the wrong thing to say. Remember this? That I should say, wait a minute, please don't go. And he's right, I should have begged him to stay, but I'm going to stick with it, because I mean it. Something unique that I don't think a lot of the other principals that are recognizing and honoring their retirees tonight that I have with Paul is that he was my coach also. And that's the first time I think I've mentioned him as Paul. So it feels strange because he's always been coach to me. And he still is, and even though we're colleagues, I still call him coach. He was someone who meant a lot to me personally, as a role model, as a mentor, as a model father. He got to go on summer science when I got to go as well, so I got to know his wife and his children, and it was memories that I'll never forget. And it's not lost on me, and he and I have had a few chances over the 4 years that I've got to serve in my role as principal back where I attended, where we don't take it for granted that it's pretty cool that we get to work together. So I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him a lot. He's part of the fabric of this school. He means a lot to his students. He means a lot to his colleagues. We're very fortunate that we got to hire his replacement, Miss Handelsman, who student taught here with Bobby Joe right across the hallway from Paul. And she's still here, and he gets to mentor and pass on a lot of knowledge to her. And we know she's going to do a great job, but she's not going to be Coach Tenbrink, but she's going to do a wonderful job. So I know that he's looking forward to spending time on the lakeshore where he moved, playing some golf, and spending more time visiting family, his children, and but we're going to miss him. We're going to miss him a lot. So, Coach, congratulations, and we're going to miss you, and thanks for everything, man.
All right, well, we will start with Allward, so I'll have Melanie in the clerk.
All right, good evening. I have two wonderful ladies that I am honoring tonight that are retiring. I don't believe that they're in attendance, but first I have Janet Pingle. She's been a first grade teacher at Allward for 16 years. So Janet, when I first got to know her, she was loud and welcoming and just a lot of fun and a ball of energy. And so she's definitely going to be missed at Allward. One of the things that I really appreciate about her, we had the EI program for 4 years while I've been at Allward, and she really took those kids into her classroom and she made them a part of her class community. And those kids still come back and they come into her classroom, and she is just so excited to see them. So we had one student come back last week that is now at Jamestown, and she was radioing for me, Melanie, where are you? You have to come down and see our friend. And so it's just so cool to see the relationships that she has with those kids, even when they're not in her classroom. And I know that she loves welcoming the kindergartners and the pre-Kers, and they all want to have her as a teacher because you can find her in a kindergarten or pre-K classroom during her plan time. So that's something super cool too about her. And we're also gonna miss when the lunch menus come out because she will run up and down the hallway saying that the new lunch menu is out, and the kids absolutely love it. So I know that she's super excited just to be able to travel. She has family down in Texas, and so she'll be able to see those grandbabies whenever she wants to. So we're definitely gonna miss her. And then the last one that we have is Chris Mason. She has taught for 24 years. And I know that she's been in Hudsonville and in Coopersville. She's taught in the elementary level, and she's been in a lot of different buildings, and she ended her career with STEAM. And I think STEAM was meant for her. Like, they definitely had a marriage. And she just did a great job getting those kids excited about building and thinking outside of the box and being super creative. One thing for this school year, I got a couple of messages from parents with the robotics team up here tonight. She went actually to one of their competitions, and she was out there supporting and rooting for them, and she did not have to do that. So she just went above and beyond for her students, just all the time, just wanting them to feel like finding those kids that STEAM was maybe their niche, and that was super cool to see. So, and I know she's super excited about retirement. I know her kids are graduating, and she's excited to travel, but she's definitely going to be missed in Hudsonville. So I'd like to just thank them for their years of service.
Next, we will have Georgetown. So Randy Woolley.
Good evening, board. Good evening, everyone. Georgetown has 2 retirements this year. One of them is not here. I will start with her. Mindy Heisinga is retiring from Georgetown this year. She has taught 4th grade at Georgetown for quite the last little bit, but she has 30 years in the district. She's actually a Hudsonville High School graduate as well. Her and her husband John also have 3 kids who are adults now who are also Hudsonville High School graduates. So she's just been in the community for a long time. She taught 1 year in Indiana, then moved back to Michigan, and was hired by Hudsonville in 1991. And she's been here since. She's taught 4 different grade levels for us, K, 1st, 2nd, 4th, and she's taught 4 different buildings. And she is one of our original founding members of Georgetown when it opened in '06. So she is part of the original fabric there. She's just really great at connecting with kids and her colleagues. I really worry next year just thinking about her team right now, her 4th grade team, and just, replacing her in the sense that they're just very tight, and she's kind of, part of that fabric and part of that glue. She's really passionate about her kids and their growth. I get emails or text messages often from her about a specific student that she's concerned about. Might be attendance, might be grades, might be something going on at home, and just, asking me to connect with her in the morning about it. She's very honest, she's very funny, she's very encouraging, and she's really going to be missed. And I know her and her husband John are celebrating their 30th anniversary this summer, so hopefully they're going to enjoy lots of family time together. So congratulations to me. And our other retiree is here tonight, Karen Walenta. Karen is a Hope College graduate. She is married to her husband Pete. I think Pete's here as well. And she has 3 kids. Karen is typical of many educators. She's kind of done lots of different things in her career. Her first 10 years were not in Hudsonville. She was in kind of the special ed world teaching special education. And then she decided to take some time off when she had her kids. And then she came back after 10 years, and then she came to Hudsonville, and which is very typical. I just found this in my building. We have so many people that kind of started off in different areas, and they just moved around. Karen started off as a paraprofessional long-term sub at South Elementary for a couple years. Then she came to Georgetown and became a para and a long-term sub for 5 years. And then she actually did pre-K, and I didn't know this about her until she told me she did pre-K and kindergarten music for a year at Georgetown and Bauer. And she's done 5th grade for the last 10 years, and there's a little bit of a difference between doing 5th grade and doing pre-K music. So it just shows her versatility and her ability to kind of adapt and work with lots of kids. I asked her teammates and her colleagues in 5th grade to give me some things to say about her. Most of them I won't say, but they mentioned that she is, the best dancer of the group. She's great with impressions, and I can vouch for this. Her comedic timing is wonderful. She always knows when to throw something in to lighten the mood or the situation. And obviously in education, there's lots of times during the year where things just get a little heavy, and her sense of humor and her ability to kind of just see the positive in any situation will definitely be missed. Karen's super thoughtful, sincere. She truly loves her kids and the people that she works with. And she's the kind of person that education just needs. Just have to have people like her. One funny story about Karen that just kind of, to me, epitomizes who she is and how she feels about her kids. Karen, I didn't get your permission to share this one, but I'm going to anyway. Last year, we were out playing kickball. Her kids had earned a reward, and she asked me if I'd come out and be the pitcher for the game, and I said, sure, no problem. She was going to be the all-time, or not an all-time batter, but she was going to kick for both teams. And so she kicked one, and she's running to first base, and she just totally just biffed it and fell face first right into the dirt and jumped up. And I was a little concerned. I wasn't sure she was okay, but she was fine. And then I think the first thing she said to me when we went inside, she goes, you know what, the kids are going to love that, and they're going to remember that for a long time. And she wasn't concerned about her humility or anything like that. It was just the fact that she gave the kids a memory, and that's just kind of how she taught every day. And I know she's going to really enjoy retirement. Congratulations to both her and Pete. They had their first grandchild last weekend. So. Like I said, we'll really miss Karen, so congratulations on your retirement, Karen.
I don't believe Heather Persh is here, and I know Jeremy provides for building principal. Heather is a resource room teacher at Jamestown Upper. Spent the last 10 years there, did amazing work with that building. Jeremy couldn't make it tonight, and if Heather's here, I can't see her. But just want to thank her for her service, not only to the district. Her kids came through, active swimmers, water polo players, so I'd say on the pool deck. Her husband still runs the timing system in the school for our water polo and swim events. So just a dedicated family, not only to Hudsonville, but to the community. I want to thank her for her years of service over at Jamestown Upper. So Heather Persh, I don't think you're here, but I will go to your next staff meeting. You can humiliate her there too.
I did this purposely because South Elementary is next, so I'm going to introduce Mark Hegel. Figured sit in.
Good evening. I have the privilege of honoring Amy Jurwitz, also known as Amy J. or Mrs. J. Depends on which side of the fence you are, if you're a little person or a taller person. Amy has spent about 20 years of her educational career with Hudsonville, and she's moved around a little bit, so I had to take some notes. She's been at Bauer in Georgetown and at Baldwin Middle School, and then finished with South, just like the alphabetical order. I love it. One of the things about Amy, just even tonight, she can't be here tonight because she's not feeling well. And as she sent Ann and I an email, this is again the epitome of the quality of this person. She said, Mark and Ann, I would really like to be there tonight, but my kids need me tomorrow. And so I'm going to forego tonight, and I'm going to rest up and go to bed. Hopefully she's resting well right now. And she wants to be ready to go for Friday because there's some special activities at South. She also had some unique experiences at South. She's one of the few people, this happens from time to time, when her position at the middle school ended up being dissolved, and probably someone like Ann or myself, it wasn't Ann at that time, walked into her room and said, congratulations, you're no longer going to be at Baldwin Middle School. You're going to probably go to an elementary building, and it might be South. And those are pretty difficult conversations to have when your heart is in a building and your heart is in a position and that position no longer exists. And she never for 1 second went negative. another just piece of the quality person that she was. She was in a literacy role and was supporting students at the middle school, helping them who were struggling in reading, to love literature, to be able to go into their high school careers, to be more literate, able to survive and do well in their classes. And when she made the transition over to us, she was just ready to go. And it didn't take much conversation on my part. I wanted to make sure she had what she needed, and she was also the type of person that you just get out of her way and you let her go because she's just so quality. The other hurdle she had to handle, which was very unique, is she came into a building and had to teach in the same building with her son. And although that can be a lot of fun, that's a unique circumstance because he had been at South for a few years already. And so to have mom step in and teach down the hallway and be a part of the same family, the work family, that's pretty unique. And I think she was more worried about her son than she was really worried about how that impacted her. Her connection with kids is just phenomenal. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter where they're heading. It doesn't matter what happened in the morning or what's going to happen in the afternoon. She is the steady person who is always there for those kids. And as some of my colleagues mentioned, she's also one that her door is open all the time because the rest of the staff go talk to her. She has a lot of wisdom to impart. And so we will miss her greatly. The district will miss her greatly. We know she'll do wonderful things in retirement and have some time to be with her husband and to be with her extended family and do some things I'm sure she's been putting on hold. But just another incredibly quality person that the district has and will be losing. And it's interesting tonight, the circle of life almost, where we get to bring in some new folks and they get to hear tonight some of the shoes that they're filling. And I think that's important to hear what's next. It's exciting to see what's next. But Mrs. J, as I call her, we appreciate everything she's done and given to the district and to South as the end of her career.
Again, I just reiterate everything. I just am so thankful that Hudsonville Public Schools was able to have these amazing colleagues throughout their careers. And so I don't want to recommend this, so I'm just going to tell you those are the retirees. So that's all I'm going to say.
Well, we will take a motion that the board reluctantly accepts the retirement of all those wonderful teachers that have decided to retire that we recognize this evening. I mean, many of you, I know my 5 kids have had a number of you as we've gone through, and I know a number of you are friends of many members of the board here. So as we've all been together in the district and our kids have gone through the districts or the schools together and so forth. So again, may I have a motion, please, to reluctantly accept the retirements of that we talked about this evening.
Reluctantly, I move that.
Larry Kappenga, reluctantly, duly noted. A second?
Support their retirement, not leaving the district.
Okay, yes, and that's a good point as well. You'll always be part of the Hudsonville family, and with that comes some obligations that we may tap you on the shoulder every now and then and say, hey, could you give us some help on a committee or in substitute teaching or driving a bus or something, right? So who knows, we have lots of needs. So you'll always be part of the family, and we wish you all the best, obviously, but we may be reaching out every now and then to say, hey, we could use some help. So, okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor, please say yes. Yes. Motion, opposed, no. Motion carried. Mr. Kappenga, do you have any words of wisdom for our retirees?
Well, at least I know most of the people on the second list, whereas the newcomers, and in the higher former students of mine. So, but Amy was a former student when I was student teaching back in 1970, and Ann and Chris I've coached, and I know their husbands well. Jeff, and I just, I know these people. It's walking into a building, it's nice to see faces you recognize, whereas nowadays, most of the places I don't know most of the people.
Okay. Well, again, congratulations. You are welcome to stay as we continue with the board meeting. Yeah. Sure.
I would like to ask all our retirees that are here, if you could come up front for a quick photo. I know you love photos, we love them too, but with 330 plus years of experience, we'd like to celebrate that with a nice photo.
Yeah, people joining you. Here we are. All right. I'm sorry.
Wait just a moment here. Okay, and again, as we, Ms. Armstrong, talk about new beginnings, we have an administration hire recommendation. Are you taking this one?
So with the opening of the 5-6 building in just over a year, the board approved Melanie McClure to be the new principal of the 5-6 building, which she is actively making decisions, not realizing how many decisions you have to make, like building a home, but it's a much bigger home. So she's doing amazing work, trying to finish out the year at Allward. We have a recommendation tonight for the Board of Education. I do want to thank Ann Armstrong and the work that she has done to help really fine-tune our process and bring to the board what we believe is by far an amazing recommendation. Tonight we'd like to recommend Heidi Mucha to be the new principal at Allward Elementary. Heidi is in the back. I see her. She's standing up right there. This is a little bit unique because I don't know how the board will vote, but her kids are there to answer to if this doesn't go. I'm totally kidding. So Heidi spent the last 7 years in Allendale working in the district, the last 3 at the high school level, but has an extensive knowledge not only in elementary, but in special education. It just has done an amazing job. When I had the opportunity to call Allendale and speak with her superintendent, it was not easy. He was like, well, we can't lose her. And I'm like, well, we can't pass her up. So we have an opportunity to bring Heidi to the district. We're looking forward to this. I know our family's back there. Heidi has an opportunity also, and I don't know if, hopefully you have told your girls, I know you have a 2nd grader and a kindergartner, that mom's going to be your principal possibly next year if this goes well. So, and very exciting because I can tell you on behalf of the opportunity that you gave my wife, those of you who were here, to be the principal at Bauer when our son went there. It was just a great opportunity. So we'd like to recommend Heidi to be the principal at Allward Elementary, starting this summer and ready to get going next year. So that's a recommendation.
Okay, can I have a motion, please, that the board approve hiring Heidi Mucha as the Allward Elementary principal as reviewed by Dr. Vaderjack?
So moved.
Motion by Dawn Steeden. Support from Steve Bowerman. Questions or comments from the board? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Congratulations, Heidi. Welcome to the Hudsonville family, and we look forward to great things at Allward. Excellent. Okay, we move on now to discussion items. First up, we have board meeting transparency. Some discussion amongst the board regarding making sure that people can hear, potentially live streaming, potentially recording meetings, a number of different topics. So, Dr. Vanderjagt, would you like to kick this off, or any comments you want to make? Or no?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we've been, obviously the environment of board meetings has looked different over the past, I would say, year and a half. When we were in a boardroom, it was a little bit more of an intimate atmosphere. We've moved to this location for board meetings. Work sessions have been in the media center at the freshman campus, which has worked out fairly well from a size location. There's room for expansion there. The nice thing about the media center at the freshman campus, if for any reason we feel like we need to adjourn into a larger venue, the auditorium, if available, is there. We're on a campus. We don't have to, we don't need the 18-hour reposting of location law that we have to follow if we have to move, because we're on the same location. So that's helped. We do know that it's sometimes not easy to hear everybody that's speaking at the boardroom. So we have looked into, and I know Carl had to step out, but in January, we looked into microphones for each board member that are Bluetooth that allow, instead of passing this around and having down there a system that would allow for every board member to speak, quite frankly, at the same time using a microphone. Unfortunately, a lot of this equipment can't be delivered overnight. We are looking at trying to borrow one from another district if we have alternating board meetings to try to get us to this sooner than later. So that was one thing we've discussed. Another thing that was on discussion about was regarding recording of meetings, whether it's live streaming, whether it's recording, posting, and so forth. Those are discussions I think the board should have. They're healthy discussions to determine whether or not that's something you want to pursue. I did reach out to the neighboring school districts, at least in Ottawa County, to ask what they do, and most of them do not. But that's just what they do and what they feel is their need. I know Forest Hills records their board meetings, and then Granville has some opportunity. They record some of theirs. Howland Christian said that they record their annual meeting, their budget meeting once a year, and go from there. So just discussions that I think the board should have about what direction. We do not in this district, and I'm right, wrong, or indifferent, we do not have a true board room. Granville, for example, has a true boardroom raised. You'd see in commission meetings, Georgetown Township. If you look at even Jamestown Township, they're redoing their boardroom to make it a true boardroom. We don't have a true boardroom. Does that mean we can't make adjustments to our meetings so that they're more accessible for people? There's room here, but we want to make sure people can hear us also. So those are conversations I think we should have. I know a board member brought up and had some questions about it. And that's, I don't know if I summarized some of it or if you want to talk more about it. I have the mic so I can talk for a while if you want to go from there.
Well, again, we'd just like to hear from board members. I would recommend that we kind of identify what we're looking for, what we're thinking about, and then form a small working group to bring options forward, technology, and so on and so forth. So I want to hear from other board members regarding what the desire is and what the interest may be, and what comments or what additional input that we can provide to the administrative team. Mark, did you?
Sure. Yeah, I think the microphones are really essential because I've had a number of people say to me that they can't hear what's being said, and it becomes awkward passing the microphone back and forth. The live streaming might not be a wise thing because I think if we live stream, we have to offer opportunity for public comment from those who are watching online. I'm not sure we want to do that. I do favor having the meetings recorded. I know that Dana is doing a good job of this and is posting the recordings. I think it would be nice to have him continue doing that, but also have it done officially as a school district so that people who can't make the meetings can at least review them at home.
Okay. Other comments? Yep. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't next to each other.
I don't know why.
I think we need to also think long-term, and one of the things that I would like possibly to check into is as we're looking to hopefully expand the administrative office past having two portables, is this a long-term plan to create some room that would work as a board meeting that you could use for other purposes, but then that would have a more permanent system to it. So in other words, if we're going to spend the resources, can we patch resources now with a long-term plan to have the resources available with the appropriate setting that makes it more conducive for meetings and work sessions and other things that possibly the public would attend.
Other thoughts, comments?
I know, Doug, you mentioned the Bluetooth, and they were ordered in January. And I know the gentleman stepped out. Do we know roughly the delay? I know there's a lot of supply issues, but do we know, like, any idea?
Yeah, so our best guess, they said 6 to 9 months. It's a nice system. It works well. It gives everybody a little microphone, a little button in front of it. You push it to talk, and then you push it to stop talking. So as soon as we can get it in, I do have to be honest, the district that we might be able to borrow from, we could borrow and not return them right away and see if they work for a while, but we'd like to get that up and running soon. I think we could use it here, we can use it in the other venue, we could take it with us if we were to move to and we could use it in a new boardroom if that was something in the long-term plan. I do want to quick, Mr. Davis, you mentioned about live streaming, about public comment. That's a great point about live streaming and live public comment. Right now, we do not have the ability to allow for public comment remotely. The state doesn't allow that with our open meetings, but and so recording would be a possibility, as you mentioned, but the live streaming would be a challenge because it's not allowable right now. Good points.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree that the microphones are an essential, even if there's anything we can incrementally do to make it better, you know, if there's a couple or one per table or whatever for future meetings. And then regarding the recording, I think as a next step, if perhaps the administration can bring options forward, I would certainly be curious of, you know, the technical capabilities, how that would work. I understand that there's ways to obviously do it, you know, efficiently and easily. I'd like to know what is the right way to do it and what's the technology behind it and what's the cost associated with that so that we can then make a decision around it.
So along that line, it's a great conversation. We have explored some ideas with WCET, talking to what their capabilities are. They don't have the staff to do it, so there'll be operational expenses. There'll be some equipment expenses, not near as many with WCET. They have a lot of the equipment, but it's time, right? It's work hours for somebody. So we'll look at not only the equipment conversation, but the workforce behind it, because it doesn't, as Dana knows, it doesn't run itself, nor his, I believe, your son, who then takes care of it and edits it before it goes online or something. So definitely takes time to do that. So we can work on both those options.
Another thought on WCET, we've talked about working more closely with them, with the students, to provide, you know, to learn about that form of communication, television systems and so forth. So maybe that's something to think about as well. Maybe a student is, you know, is involved in that. So just a thought, something to look into. Other thoughts or comments? I think we've got some good conversation, some good direction here. And again, I agree that we can go away, the administrative team can go away and come back with some options and some timing and so forth, and then we can discuss that further. So does that make sense to the board? Okay. Yes. Good. Okay. All right. Good. Thank you for that. And then we move on to non-homestead election results. So again.
I'll do the best to try to break some of this down. We had an opportunity to connect with Ottawa County regarding the results. Once again, this is our annual non-homestead millage. It's the 18 mills that are levied for non-homestead businesses, properties, second homes, those type of things. Every year, because of the change in taxes, the volume of new residents and so forth in Hudsonville, for the last 26 years, Hudsonville has gone every year to ask for this 18 mills. We have not, as some districts have. I'll give you an example. Jennison, Byron Center, Granville have a 10-year non-homestead, what we call a Headley rollback. So they ask for 21 mills. And then it's included the Headley rollback so that every year if it drops, they can still levy the 18. They ask for 21, they can't levy 21, they can levy 18 and go from there. We have done this every year. That might be another conversation for the board to have about, do we look at another direction for doing this? Is it voter, every year, are they used to it? And saying, yep, every May we know this is going to be on the ballot, or every May it's on the ballot. I'm kind of tired of this every year being on the ballot. I don't know the answer to that. This year, we with a lot going on, no excuses. We didn't, we got the word out from Appleseed, sent a letter to our parents a couple weeks before the election, met with all the PTO presidents, talked about getting the word out, about making sure, asking people to vote. We think it's important for the volume of people to get out and vote. As a district, based on our results, we range anywhere between 6% of a precinct voting up to 11 and 12% of a precinct voting. This past one, we had anywhere from a little bit higher, was up to 20 or almost 20%. The lowest ones were right in the around 13%. Things have shifted in the past 4 years. I looked at the last 4 years worth of data. I'm just going to go back a little bit here. So 4 years ago was pre-pandemic. We were almost 2-to-1 in-person voting versus absentee voting. Then we had a pandemic where there was no in-person voting, all absentee voting. Then we went to the year after, I would say, the pandemic started, so a year ago. There was about equal between actual voting in-person and absentee. And then the whole system shifted where you automatically get your absentee ballot in the mail as opposed to requesting it. You request them, so from now on you get absentee ballots. And so this year it was 2-to-1 the other way. So you have, for every one person that voted, there were anywhere from 2 to 3 absentee votes on the same time. Each one of those precincts reports out between absentee and in-person voting. There are 4 precincts that did not, or wards, I guess, the 2 wards from the city of Hudsonville and Blendon Township. They don't have any absentee ballots, and I want to be clear that they had plenty of absentee ballots, but the way they run their precinct, because of the size, is all the absentee ballots are fed through the machine on election day. And so they're counted as in-person, even though several of them were absentee. I know some of you have worked voting locations. I know, Mr. Davis, you have in the past. Maybe there was downtime in the May election where that could take place. I don't know, but that was what they explained to me as to why they don't show any absentee ballots. Our positive rate was 56%, yes, which was lower than what we've seen last year. It was closer to 72%. This year it was down quite a bit. Part of that, we feel we can do a better job of communicating the facts behind what the non-homestead is. I have received a lot of feedback on what you would see on social media and trying to combat that, or at least inform our voters. I think it needs to go out more like 6 or 7 weeks before an election versus 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of people already voted by the time they got information from the district. So that is something we can do. There's a lot of other conversations we can have with our PTOs, talk about, and I can spend more time in the community talking about the impact that this has, not only on the district, but if we should be going every year, should we be going every 2 years, 3 years? You have, sorry, I've got notes here. You've got districts, Saugatuck, Spring Lake, they go every 3 years, Hamilton's every 2 years, Allendale goes every 4 years, and they do it in November. They make it on a presidential election, they know they get the turnout, so they do it on 4 years for Allendale. Grand Haven is similar to Hudsonville. They go every year. They ask for 18 mills, and then they don't ask for the Headley rollback. They go every year. Maybe because their taxes change quite a bit over there in Grand Haven also. So that's somewhat of an update. I don't know what other additional information we'd like to discuss. I'm more than happy to gather feedback and provide more information in future meetings.
So again, a couple of specific areas. Yep, I'll hand it down. Yep. Just going to say, so out of that, a couple of specific points that you raised about investigating or shifting the communication up earlier, so that folks who vote absentee ballot have that information early, and then investigating the ideas, the approach about expanding it to multiple years versus every year? Are those things that we can investigate? Okay. Yes, Mr. Davis.
Sure, thanks. I wanted to talk about the numbers here, and then the board can talk about what the numbers mean. The turnout this year was the third highest in the last 11 years, so there was good turnout. And there's been a downward trend, which was really more dramatic this year than it's been in the past. If that trend would continue, we would lose this vote in the next 2 years. Within the next 2 years, it wouldn't be approved. I like to point out also that the average voter has no skin in the game when it comes to this. It does not raise their taxes. This is simply what it does to non-homestead, that is second homes or businesses. So there really was no reason for anybody to vote no on a personal basis in terms of their own expenses here. On the absentee issue, the absentees, I went through all the precincts here, and we had stronger support from the absentees than we had in the overall. We had 2,583 absentee ballot cast, 1712 were positive yeses, 871 no. So the percentage was 66.27% support from the absentees, as opposed to what we had with 56.74% from those overall. So those are the numbers. We could talk more about the numbers, but I'm more concerned about what it means. Is there a message that's being sent to the board by the downward trend, and the particularly striking downward trend this year?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Other thoughts, comments from board members? Again, I think to your point, something that we should dig into the data a little bit more, understand the data, and see what that's telling us. And if there's a message to your point, and understand that. So that's good data to hear. So we got to investigate that. We got some work to do.
How would you propose we do that?
Well, again, I haven't seen that data yet. So if that could be sent to the entire board, and then and then I would say at a upcoming work session, we spend some more time and look at it. And again, maybe discern, have some discussion about, is there a message? Is there something that we're missing? Is there, how do we approach that? But I'm open to suggestions, Mark, if you got another approach.
From this and let me see the microphone. From this data and from what I hear from phone calls and emails and conversations with citizens, there seems to be an undercurrent of discontent with the direction of the district and what's happening. And I think the board needs to find a way not only to listen, but to converse with the district as well. One of the biggest things I hear is the board sits and listens, but they never respond. And I'm not criticizing you for this, Ken, but you say, and I've done that too in the chairman's seat, we say, thank you for your comments, but that's as far as it goes. There needs to be some forum, and I don't know what it is, but it's some legitimate forum where the board can interact with the public, and there can be legitimate answers given to legitimate questions.
And investigating that with other districts. I know that there are districts, for example, out there that they scribe the or record or scribe or whatever the questions, and then there is a kind of a formal way that questions are responded to that's shared with the community. So yeah, I think that's something we can investigate as well, Mark. Yeah. Other thoughts? Yeah, Don.
I appreciate those statistics, Mark, because part of what that tells me is that the in-person voting was more easily influenced by current social media. And a lot of the social media posts that I saw clearly did not have all of the factual information. And it's unfortunate that that seems to be the go-to. And we can't deny that it's been a year of strong feelings and some misinformation. So I appreciate the fact that you're looking at stats and data, and I appreciate the fact that you're bringing this up, but I also don't think we can discount the misinformation piece of this when you're showing that the in-person voting is higher than the absentee voting.
Other thoughts, comments from board members?
I don't know, I mean, this is our, there was a lot of people that turned out to vote. I mean, this was the third highest. And I just think that as a board, we cannot put our heads in the sand. I think a message is trying to be sent to us, and how we talk about it. Maybe we talk about it at a work session, but I agree with what Mark said.
And if in fact that is truly the case, how do you glean that data? Because when people leave the voting booth, they don't then send a note that says, I voted against this because, or I voted for this because. So in some respects, are we speculating, or is there data to support that? So that would be my question. If we're going to make that kind of a statement, where's your data to back that up besides limited emails and phone calls to certain board members?
When there's a 56.7 approval rating, and it has gone down, that's the lowest it's ever been. And if you look at all of our surrounding districts, they're frequently in the 70% range. I don't need much more information. To me, this is very clear.
Chad, any perspective from the Georgetown board and how they would kind of glean public sentiment around a topic or set of issues or things that you might share?
So a few thoughts. One, I know that we have various opportunities where we poll the public throughout the year via surveys and others, and I think to Mr. Davis's point, perhaps there's an opportunity to leverage those forums to seek additional feedback about the elections. You know, if ultimately our goal is to get as much of the electorate as possible to speak into a particular vote, I would personally question leveraging the May timeframe. Now, I know that there's calendar reasons for that and so on, but you know, we might have a future discussion as a board about the strategy for, you know, to what Dr. Vanderjack said. Do we go every year? Do we go once every 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years? And if you're going every 4 years, I think there might be some wisdom to the approach that Allendale or others are taking in terms of, well, go in the presidential election. It seems to be the election that has the most possible people turn out. You're going to get the most representative vote of the electorate of your community. And if that's where the most people are voting, then that's where we ought to ask the question of most of the voters to have them speak. But that's not what I'm sensing this discussion is about. I'm sensing this discussion is more about you know, the fact that this vote was being used to send a message to the board, and I believe it probably was. And I think to the degree that we can explore that further, you know, in other elected bodies, I've been a part of things like town hall discussions where there was more of a set aside time for dialogue back and forth. Now that, you know, it would be important if we're going to do that for the board to agree upon a format, because generally speaking, a board speaks with one voice in total through its votes. You know, when you get into a town hall Q&A format, it's really more an opportunity to talk with 7 different opinions as opposed to a singular voice of a board, and it's just a bit more complex to facilitate. But I'm certainly open to us exploring ways to, you know, figure out how to do that more in dialogue more. I don't think it's per se effective at a board meeting where business needs to be conducted to have that, but rather to set up a separate forum for that dialogue, whether that's a work session or a time you know, I participated in the past where it would be town hall for an hour, work session to follow, or work session followed by, you know, more of a interactive meet and greet and discussion.
Any other input or comments? Yep.
Thank you. We had 100% more no votes this year than we had last year. And that's significant. Now, I take it personally as a board member, and I think I should, and all of us should take it personally. And I think we have responsibility to find out why. There might be some persons who are trying to bias people in the wrong direction, but we need to have a wholesome ear to listen to the district because they have spoken. This is the survey that matters. We can do a lot of surveys, a lot of questionnaires. This is the one that matters. Because if it continues in this direction, we're going to be in deep trouble in terms of future support from the community for our district. We need to be listening to the district. Other comments from the board? Okay, so there's a few things that I wrote down. There's sort of the mechanics, I'll say, of this particular election and investigating a multiple year approach. And I understand the point, that the feedback, but there's a number of, I think, good ideas that came out of this discussion. And so from a mechanics standpoint, I think as all the districts, or virtually all the districts, except for one or two, around us do, investigating the multiple year approach and maybe investigating a shift to November when, as was said, all the voters are out voting for various positions. And then on the feedback and getting the feedback piece, I heard surveys, I heard investigating town hall discussions, and there's maybe other options as well. I think, again, MASB can be a resource for that and what they've seen and what they've done and how they have structured things with districts in the past. So what I propose to the board is that, again, we spend some time, we investigate the feedback. The feedback piece is the top priority, and we investigate options and we kind of talk that through, again, with some folks who have experience like MASB, and then as a board, and we decide a course going forward. As we did with the work session, right? We shifted from committees back to a general work session based on feedback that we were hearing, and then based on discussion amongst the board, and we came up with a good approach that we're now following. So does that make sense to follow that path, or again, other ideas? It does, but I'm sorry about it.
No, that's fine.
It does make sense. I'm not really enthused about multiple year votes here. I think the benefit, I talked to the gal from Georgetown here, and she said, well, one of the few districts that have an election every year. Is kind of annoying in a way, to have that work done, but it's a good barometer. I'd like to have it done every year, at least until we're out of this continued morass here, so we know what's going on, to get some feedback from the district here. However, I would like to have something on the agenda of next work session so we don't drop this. We've talked about things all the time.
Well, again, we've shifted the work sessions, we've made changes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, the next work session, Mark, I'll push back a little bit in that we have the board self-assessment on that. And that could be a 3-hour discussion in and of itself. So that would be my only caution about that. And this could be another hour, and it turns into a 4 to 5 hour meeting.
And I would guess that this discussion tonight will fold right into that board work session about ourselves.
It may. And so we'll use that as one of the stepping stones for that. Any consensus? Make sense, everybody? Okay. All right, good discussion, good dialogue, important to have that. And again, we take I agree with Mr. Davis that we do take this is the survey that matters. We do take the results very seriously, and we will investigate, as we've done in other areas, changes and improvements that we can make as a board to move forward. All right, if there's no more with that, we move on to, we're going to give the principals a pass tonight because of the retirement discussions that we had. We'll move on to central office updates. So Mandy, we'll start with you.
Thanks.
Oh, start with Pat, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple, statewide update and then some updates about things going on in the office. So next Friday is the state May revenue estimating consensus meeting, and that is really the Super Bowl of the legislative process as far as setting the revenue targets. The economists from the House, the Senate, and the executive branch are also joined by one of the major universities and many other national economists to really set the revenue targets that the legislature and the governor have to work with as far as their next year budget. Up to this point, we track revenues month to month. Revenues are beating the estimates from January. They also have, as part of as part of statute, they do this at least twice a year, once in January, once in May. And revenues have been beating those expectations from January. So we expect revenues to be very strong. And it always comes with some projections of the future. And right now, there are understandably some concern about the future in terms of revenues, economies, economic activity due to the high inflation rate, the things the Fed has needed to do to curb inflation, as well as a war in Europe. So those are definitely impacts in the future. We're going to watch that closely. We'll be getting some information on that, but it really is the key event to talk about and really set those targets that the legislature and the governor have to set the state aid levels for next year. We really hope that they can get the budget done in June. They always promise to get it done early. We think this year they have a really high incentive to get it done early because it's an election year for them. They want to get that done and get out and campaign. And a lot of districts across the state, legislative districts, have changed. So our hope is high that they can get that done. And then just an update from what's going on in the business and HR office, but the business office went first. We're in the midst of a software conversion. The best software conversion is tough. And we believe we picked a good firm. They're having some challenges like anybody in software right now with security. They've put new levels of security in place, and those levels of security have to work with a lot of authentication. A lot of things have to happen right. But just want to say thanks to really everybody in the business, and I know Ann would say the same thing, business and HR offices, as we're doing it together. We're doing accounts payable and general ledger first, and we just kicked off payroll and HR about a month and a half ago. But the staff is just doing a great job. They're putting in extra time to get that done. But in particular, Jody Martini is just doing exceptional work. She's going above and beyond, and we'd just like to recognize her for all of her work. Thank you.
Good evening. This is a busy time of year in our school buildings for all kinds of reasons, but beginning right after spring break, all of our buildings launch immediately into assessment windows. Everything from my step at the lower levels all the way up to PSAT, SAT. Our administrators deserve a huge shout out for all of the coordination and the effort to pull off those assessments, as well as really manage a lot of the angst that our teachers and students can feel around these high stakes assessments, as well as the work that our teachers put in to prepare the students for the assessments. So it's really a culminating time of year. All of our assessments will wrap up by the end of May, including our benchmark assessments, which are those assessments that I will be reporting again, year-end tests for student growth, K-12. And I look forward to providing that report in June, and then we will move forward with any additional data reviews around some of the state assessing as we look for those results that are normally released later in the summer or early fall.
I'm definitely going to echo what my colleague just said about it being a very busy time of year. So in the HR world, in the last 48 hours, I've done over, myself and my colleagues here, have done over 36 interviews, and if you back that up to 72 hours, and we're looking at over 50. And so the principal's really a big round of applause, because they are doing end-step testing and AP testing and PSAT test, and just all the testing on top of that. And it was so fun to get into buildings today. We're doing demos today, tomorrow, into next week. We had just such excellent candidates, and it's so fun to see what's to come, even though we're saying goodbye to these amazing educators tonight. So I just want to, you know, my job in HR is I get to really be experienced with people's vulnerabilities, and I just am so thankful anytime someone comes in to interview, because that is such a daring thing to do. And so I just, you know, I always am just so thankful, and I want their experience to be positive, because I think if we can leave people, even if they don't get a position, with a positive note about our district, then it's only good things can come for our district. And so I just am so thankful that Heidi did such an amazing job. That is such a daring thing to do, and I just, you know, I know that we said a lot about like how excited we are to have her here, but to put yourself out there, I just have to tell you this story. So Heidi Lucia went through a lot in order to be named for Allward, because I mean we were replacing Melanie, so I mean you have to go through a lot. And so our candidates came in and met with different grade levels and interacted with students while staff members just walk in and out of the room. I mean that's pretty intimidating. Heidi comes in to Nikki Terpstra's class, a first grade classroom, reading A Bad Case of Stripes, and she has a primary color polka dotted dress on. And I'm not kidding you. We walk into the room and I'm about to, you know, ready to give my spiel of, hey kids, how are you? Thank you so much for helping. No, Heidi walks in and is like, boom, on. I mean, she's there, she's happy, she's, you know, just engaging and awesome and amazing. And it was just a sight to behold. And so I'm super excited for Allward, but I'm super excited just for the future of Hudsonville, because we have great candidates coming in, and I want to publicly thank all the administrators and the staff for helping out with all the many hours of interviews and time to do it, but also our candidates, because it takes a lot, so thanks.
So May is a fun time of celebration. We recently had a fun Links prom night at the high school, which was really cool. But also just a time of intense planning. And for special education department, that means a lot of staffing meetings to talk about just making sure our transitions go smoothly and supporting for our students that are receiving more and more special education service, whether they're changing buildings or programs or case manager. This year that has been compounded. We've had higher than typical number of special education evaluation referrals. That's not uncommon following any type of national crisis, to just see a little uptick there, but our school psychologist group estimates that they are rounding out almost 500 special education evaluations this school year. And so just kudos to our diagnostic team, who does a great job of looking at having those deep conversations about underlying reasons for any time a student might struggle. On a totally unrelated note to special education services, if you want an opportunity to see a local celebrity, you should check out 11 o'clock news to see Principal Stefanich on a roof to celebrate all the wonderful things that are happening in her building. So that's all I have for you tonight.
All right. Great. Then we move on to Superintendent's Report.
Just a quick update. 2 weeks from tonight, I hope you will join Principal Beal and many of the high school staff as we celebrate 479 graduates from Hudsonville High School. We'll be at the football field. We will have weather. It'll be about 74, mostly sunny with a slight breeze coming out of the west. That is guaranteed. So we'll be looking forward to that graduation. I do want to also recognize that not only Kim Belka in the office here at the high school, but the staff at the high school for recognizing our honor students. This past Monday night, we had over 100 students that were recognized to graduate from Hudsonville Public Schools with above a 4.0 GPA, which is quite amazing. And looking forward to next week, we have our athletic celebration with our students that'll be celebrating their athletic accomplishments over 4 years that their time has been here at Hudsonville High School. So looking forward to graduation. I hope you will join all of us as we celebrate our graduates, and we wish them all the best. I know Annie's not here anymore, but it's definitely an exciting time of year to go through graduation. So that's my report.
All right, it's now The next agenda item is recognition of visitors and hearing the people present. So I know we have a number of folks that would like to address the board this evening, so we will hear from our visitors who would like to address the board. Then we'll do a board roundtable, and then we will go into closed session, come out of closed session, and adjourn. So with that, Robin will call the names of those who wish to address the board this evening. And again, comments please limit to 3 minutes. Comments to be addressed to the board. And with that, Robin, let's go ahead and start.
Gwen Snow.
Once again, I apologize. I'll be speaking about things that one does not normally speak about in public. So if there are children present, it would be great if you could remove them. I don't believe that this board ever decided that our 5th graders needed instruction about HIV and AIDS, but that's what's happening. I don't believe that you ever decided that our 7th graders, 13 years old, needed instruction about oral sex and anal sex, but that's happening too. I've been reading excerpts from an unending list of hypersexualized books recommended for teens by the American Library Association. If you followed some of the links that I've sent you, you're aware of the frequent themes of boys expecting girls to perform oral sex, for girls to be used for anal sex, and pretty much for girls to promiscuously serve multiple boys from early ages as a way of being accepted. Sexuality is being porn saturated. It's being portrayed as empowering for young women to speak coarsely, to embrace porn, to be prostituted, and to participate in risky, meaningless sex. We all know that's not empowering. Sexually transmitted infections are at an all-time high. Doctors are reporting that girls aged 15 and 16 are being treated for anal damage. And when we support these themes with books and lessons, what kind of self-destructive script are we writing for our girls? And what kind of abusiveness are we scripting for our boys? We need strong boundaries for books, keeping graphic sexual content out of our classrooms, and I hope you will prioritize this work. Hudsonville schools have been led into this destructive content by a force outside of our community. Even our intermediate school district has been transformed into a place that carries resources for white hatred and resources for things like the Trans Day of Remembrance. We're currently condemned by Marxist ideology, not facts. HPS needs to get back to addressing actual problems with measurable solutions. We have an honorable history of educating with integrity dating back to 1855. I'm thankful for permission slips that go home to allow our parents to opt their children out of things that are contrary to their values. I'm asking you to please strengthen these efforts to work with parents, and please do everything in your power to identify and blunt the destructive NEA agenda that is infiltrating the Hudsonville Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Robin.
Lee DeHuff.
I'm sorry, Robin, again.
Lee DeHuff.
Lee DeHuff.
One of the goals of education should be to prepare young people to live in the real world. The fundamental problem that I have observed in the Hudsonville schools is that you don't create a learning environment that is the real world. I've quoted before from Genesis 1 and verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The real world is God's world. He has revealed himself in this book, the instruction manual. Yet in this school district, it functions as if he does not exist. But in him we live and move and we have our being. Acts chapter 17 and verse 28. He is God Almighty. He brings to pass whatsoever comes to pass. in the country called Ukraine. Yes, that country. They did an experiment in some of the schools. The Board of Education there said, we are going to offer a course in biblical ethics. And then they measured the results of those schools and compared them to the schools that didn't have that course. The schools that had that course improved their academic performance, and the amount of disciplinary actions decreased. Why don't we try that in Hudsonville's schools? When was the last time that this meeting started with a prayer? When was the last time the school assemblies or sporting events or classroom lessons started with prayer? Why not? When was the last time some verses in this book were given to students as an assignment? Why not write a book report about the book of Jonah or the love story that's in the book of Ruth? Why not? What about the free exercise that's guaranteed for religion in the First Amendment? This would give your students critical thinking, not groupthink. They wouldn't worry about being woke, and they would even be able to answer the question, what is a woman? And God says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all to the glory of God. 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 31. That includes what's taught in Hudsonville classrooms. That would be education in the truth. In Romans 6 and verse 23 we read, the wages of sin is death. This is sin by omission. But the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. Repent and believe on him.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Robin, next.
Lucille Spinner.
I'm sorry, Robin.
Lucille Spinner.
Before I start, I would recommend that you take Mark's advice. Anyway, my name is Lucy Spinner, and I'm a concerned grandparent and a concerned citizen. I'm concerned about the future of our culture. It's said that you can determine a culture's health by the arts. I'm a retired music teacher, and part of my mission was to teach my students how to determine what is good music. Most of them were not going to become professional musicians, producers, composers, but they would listen to music, and we want them to be able to decide what is good music. And I consider literature to be part of the arts. Many people don't read as much as they used 2 years ago, so it's ever more important now that we teach them how to discern good literature. The book in question that I'm going to talk about is The Kite Runner. You admitted in other meetings I've been to that these books were not necessarily age appropriate. I don't believe they're appropriate for anybody to read. The incident that I want to talk about is the fact that one of the main characters, the boy near the beginning of the story, was raped by a bunch of other boys. The way it was described in the book, it really upset me, and I have a grandson that tried to read this book, and he would not finish the book. He thought it was terrible, and I think we have a big problem with the mental health of our younger people, and this book does not help that. It's dehumanizing. The fact that you approve of this suggests to me that you've been desensitized to these things in your heart. And how can we expect our children to make good choices about literature when this is what they're reading in school? To these purposes, I don't think this book is worthy of our time. And I would suggest this to you, that whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Robin.
Greg Chansky.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to address the board. My name is Greg Chansky, and I have lived in the Hudsonville Public Schools for over 30 years. I am a Christian and a conservative who is very concerned about the moral fabric of our country, our state, our community, and our school district. I have 3 grandchildren who are attending Hudsonville Public Schools. Last fall, I was approached by several like-minded parents who asked me to consider running for the school board. In January, I started to attend the board meetings and board work sessions to make myself more familiar with the issues and to learn about the dynamics of the board and their interaction with each other and the administration. I have listened closely to the public comment that you are receiving on various subjects. And now I'm going to diverge from my notes a little bit, and I'm going to address what you were talking about this evening. You were talking about the board and what message might or might not have been being sent to you on the vote. I've been watching you folks for 5 months now, very closely. You are all very smart and intelligent people, and I respect that. But I also know that because you are smart and intelligent, you know exactly what the message is being sent with this vote. It didn't have anything to do with absentee ballots. It didn't have anything to do with not communicating a non-homestead ballot issue, which, like Mark said, doesn't affect anybody at all. It had to do with the fact that you are not listening to the people that are coming to these meetings. Okay, maybe they aren't everybody, but they're telling you things that are very, very important. When a young mother stands in front of you and says she's taken her kids out of the schools and decided to homeschool them because of what's going on in the schools, that should be gut-wrenching to you. Not only from the standpoint of what it's doing to that mother, but from the fact that it's taking money out of your coffers. The fact that a 7-0 vote on a book that was just totally rife with sexual innuendos that no one had to see, and yet you just think that's all right to have a 7-0 vote and basically tell these people that they don't mean anything to you? Whether you agree with them or not, you've got to address those issues. Like Pat said, the gravy train of money from the state is going to be ending quickly. And you have got to start to understand where your people are and what they need. And then address it. Whether you agree or disagree, address it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Robin.
I 100% agree. I believe that our words are going in one ear and out the other, but money talks. First of all, I want to say that I'm aware that most of you sitting on this board could probably care less about what I have to say in my family's decision. Yeah, I feel the need for you to know. I feel the need for you to know. I feel the need to stand here before the entire board because my kids are important. All the kids of this community are important. My husband and I have 3 beautiful children. Our oldest is currently a kindergartner at HPS at Forest Grove. Our middle child's 4 1/2 and will be in preschool next year, and our baby will be 2 this summer. We've had to make a decision that we never thought we'd have to make moving to Hudsonville, a decision that we and many other parents didn't want to make but were forced to make. Next fall, our child and all our future school-age children will no longer attend HBS. Due to the actions and decisions made by this administration and board, we no longer have the confidence that this school puts the children's best interests at heart. When you are providing and defending books that are acceptable to minor children that have explicit sexual content that wouldn't be appropriate for me to read here in front of you tonight, you do not have the children's best interest at heart. When you have almost half your teachers, 43.5%, that would not like to continue using ruler, yet you vote to do another pilot next year while increasing the amount of lessons that are taught, you are not putting the children's best interest at heart. When you have a community that says no to DEI, yet you are using a program, Ruler, that posts on their social media their commitment to DEI and Ruler, you are not putting the children's best interest at heart. When I moved to this community 13 years ago, I would have laughed at anyone who had said that in the future we would have to carefully watch what our children would be exposed to at the school, willingly by teachers and administrators. Today, I can truthfully say that I have more friends who have either pulled their children, who will be pulling their children, or whose children are coming to school age and will never step foot in the doors of HPS than those who will. My private drive alone has 4 homes with school-age children, or children who will be at school age. Of those 13 kids, only 3 of them will be at HPS, and that's with great reservation. 2 due to sports, and 1 because they trust forest growth, as do I. I know you may not be seeing a big impact right now as new homes and neighborhoods are constantly popping up, but I promise you will if you continue down the road you're using. You will see the impacts. Your recent millage elections results should tell you people are watching and eyes are being opened. Hudsonville is a community of faith, a community that cares for each other, a community that some people are trying to tear apart. But in the end, God wins and he will never leave this community. So tonight, I want to say, Lord, my family would like to thank you for Barb and Mark. Thank you for their love for the children in this community and giving them courage to take the stand. Thank you for the Forest Grove administration and the staff for having values and morals to protect our children. Lord, I thank you for so clearly opening our eyes to the lies and deceit of this world. Lord, I thank you most for never leaving my family, the community, and for the great work you will continue to do here in Hudsonville. We love you, Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Good evening. 390 days ago was the beginning of the end for our family with Hudsonville Public Schools. My eyes were awakened by the dismissal of hundreds of parents at a public board meeting. I was locked out of the school. That was a red flag that something more than the disgust of COVID and masks was happening at HPS. Since then, I have attended over a dozen board meetings, made public comments several times, sent several emails to board members, spent hours researching, met with parents with similar values and concerns in the district, and here's some of what I've learned. The current administration is not interested in working with, listening to, or respecting the parents of students and the community. The board refused to host a town hall meeting when requested by several parents. The current administration is on the path to indoctrinating students with a Marxist agenda and willingly presenting sexual and mentally abusive materials to minors. There's a lack of social studies and science at the elementary level. Continuation of DEIB committees, training, posters, assignments. There's a serious lack of proper discipline for teachers and students, and some principal leadership is failing. There's a continued lack of transparency from administration and superintendent, and we've discovered through FOIAs you are untrustworthy. James Lindsay best defines social emotional learning or positive behavior intervention services as, quote, practicing quack psychology on children without a license in uncontrolled, non-therapeutic spaces and group settings while data mining them and giving them ideologically right answers to social and emotional cues in place of academic work in every subject, end quote. This hits the nail on the head. And the first year of data mining agreed. But regardless of the results, you're continuing another year of this quack psychology. You've used COVID to boot the parents out of the schools and have continued to keep us out. No classroom parties, no field trips, teachers aren't asking for parents. Screen time and classroom rewards have gotten out of control. Cartoon shows during lunch, movies on early release days, YouTube at the end of the day, trinkets or tangible items for good behavior. Every student is academically behind 2 years. Academics should be the main focus. My list goes on. I voted no at the recent millage renewal. Will continue to vote no until I see positive change, and will tell others to vote no. The community is watching, and I hope the results scared you. With that said, we are withdrawing 3 wonderful kids from the Hudsonville Public Schools. I will continue to attend board meetings and stay in tune with the activities because it is my community, my friends, and my family who live here. I look forward to voting new board members into your seats in the fall so we can make HBS great again.
Thank you for your comments. Next,
Lauren Madison.
Good evening, board, and I just want to say good job, mamas. I pulled mine 2 years ago. As a homestead and non-homestead taxpayer to this district, I wanted to express my concern, sadness, anger, and appallment at the presence of the book Half of the Yellow Sun being in our schools, not only in the first place, but also in the decision to keep it in the building after a request to reconsider. 5 of the 7 of you have spoken against this book, and yet it is still in the classroom. Your policy failed. All that being said, I am concerned about far more than just the book. You have multiple teachers and staff in your buildings advocating for pornographic materials like this. Are these the kind of people you are comfortable employing and hiring to teach the children of this community? Would you want these types of materials taught to your children and grandchildren? At the last board meeting, security measures, and at this board meeting, of over $500,000 were proposed and approved. That makes it sound like you want to keep the kids in our community safe, when in reality, materials like Half of the Yellow Sun and the teachers and staff pushing their personal agendas with similar materials are killing the children of this community from the inside out. As of you all know, the millage passed, but when you drill down on the statistics, you see a different story like you talked about tonight. Blendon Township, 54% no. Jamestown, 54% no. Precinct 2 in Jamestown, 67% no. Zeeland, 85% no. And Salem, 56% no. All 15 precincts had a decline in yes votes and an increase in no. And for the previous 5 years, the millage passed at roughly 70 to 30. This year, 57 to 43. This is the result of only a few months' work by grassroots organizations and facts like the books coming home. Thank you, Barb, and thank you, Mark, for hearing the message. Votes show HPS is on a losing end. Clearly your performance is lacking and you have had and still do have opportunities to improve. If this continues, as Mark stated, you could lose the millage in 2024, data shows, but if your behavior and what our school system is doing, you could lose it next year. In America, we all know money talks. And I hope you take these statistics to heart and change the direction of HPS. Turn back to the community and the desires of the taxpayers. You can be courageous enough to stand against the NEA's woke agenda. It'll be hard work, but the kids of this community are worth it. I hope you agree that they're worth it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Heidi St. Helen.
It's been a while since I've been here. My name is Abby Centellin, and I'm a former student of HPS. So I wanted to start off by saying thank you. Without your poor leadership and lack of integrity, I, along with my 4 siblings, would still be HPS students. I now attend a private Christian school where there's actual leadership and enforced rules, where the parents have a voice that's actually listened to, where kids are not allowed to identify as animals or bark at people, where teachers don't read inappropriate books to kids, and where I don't have to worry about getting in trouble for misgendering another student. What kind of sick adult would want to encourage a child to be a different gender than God created them to be? What sick adult allows kids to identify as animals? Are you really okay with this? If you're not, why are you still allowing it at schools? I have 2 younger brothers that want to be a dinosaur, but no, that's not possible. Dr. Vanderjack, you're probably a nice person, but you're leading Hudsonville down a bad path. You've lied to the board, parents, and the community. That sets a bad example for students. You haven't taken a stand against anything but parents. You've been taught, I have been taught not to tell lies, that it's always better to tell the truth. I've been taught to be kind to everybody no matter their differences, and that if somebody does something bad, that I don't encourage it. There's probably former teachers or principals of mine in this room that can tell you that I love everybody and am kind to everybody. I've been taught these things. I have also been taught to stand up for what I believe and that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We wonder why our country is such a mess right now. Just look at what's being taught in our schools. This board should be ashamed of what you're allowing in the schools. You really should listen to the parents. You're supposed to partner with them to teach us the skills we need to become productive members of society. Again, I ask you to do what's right and make Hudsonville Schools a place where we can be proud of again.
Thank you for your comments. Calling next.
Yelena Klawan.
Apparently not here, so next, Robin.
Joan Bass.
Thank you very much for having us here today. I'm really glad I came to this meeting. It was really encouraging to see. It was sad to see some of the retirees because I know many of them, but it was encouraging because it reminded me of the excellence that my children received when they were here. I have two, I'm a proud parent of two graduates. One is a physician and one is a project manager for a large company, and I always felt like they really did get a good education here. I do want to acknowledge that I noticed in the last year there have been, I don't think we can honestly say that you haven't listened to anything. I think that, in my opinion, that we have seen some positive, smaller changes, than we had hoped, but we do see, I do see that that you are listening, and I think after this meeting, I want to say I really appreciate that. I'm not going to be redundant on the book. I just totally agree with what's been said. One thing I thought of tonight when I was listening to the people that are retiring is the word excellence, and I actually had that in my notes. And when you look at some of these books that are in the school and some of the teachings, they probably lack excellence. And so if we keep in our mind, that we want to keep things high, we want to keep things good, for the kids, we want to keep things excellent, that we need to weed out what is not excellent. And some of these books would probably fall into that too. The other thing is, this is a little bit different, but I want to just really quickly address an idea that I've heard floating around that when we bring in some of these new curriculums and people say things like, well, this is all new, why are we doing this? And there are people that say, well, our community is changing. So I'd like to address that really quick. And I'd like to say that, yes, our community is changing. I would say, yes, that's a good thing. It's good to have good neighbors. But I'd like to ask you, what has kept Hudsonville unique? What draws people to the district like Hudsonville? And this has been the quality. Just because there are new people does not justify bringing in new curriculums that promote Marxist ideas. Just because there are new people doesn't mean that we need to become negative. I think people come here for the excellence, and we need to keep that in mind. So anyway, I would just like to implore you, thank you for listening. I'd like to implore you to keep excellence in Hudsonville schools and attain for excellence. And thank you for listening to us, parents and citizens and taxpayers.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Next, Robin.
Kristen Jensen.
Thank you for letting me address you this evening. As a parent member of the book review committee of Half a Yellow Sun, which is a popular topic, I wanted to provide some of my insights as to why I chose to leave the book on the shelf and available to the students as they broaden their cultural awareness through reading. First, I want you to know that I took the opportunity seriously to support our students. It was with much thought and energy that I considered this book's merits. I know I don't have to disclose my confidential participation, but I am open to discuss the process with anyone. As a parent of 3 recent Hudsonville High School graduates, I've always thought highly of the staff and teachers of Hudsonville Public Schools. My kids have had wonderful educators that have always pushed and encouraged them. I've never felt their teachers led them in a direction that was harmful or misguided. They opened the world to my kids. This past year, my daughter in her AP Comp class has read more meaningful books and exposed herself to the world more than her previous 11 years of schooling. I even read many of the same books she did, so I knew what my child was doing. I will say I did not always like the topics and thought about whether my 17-year-old should be reading them. But in the end, I said this is life, and I would rather her learn about these books, learn about these activities in the world through a book than have to personally experience those horrors. It is my decision that my child reads and not anyone else's choice. Just like any other parent has the right to allow or not allow their children exposure to certain topics, books, etc., we have a choice and responsibility to manage our own family's exposures. These are young adults who will be going to face the world. Going through this committee review with 7 total strangers, I learned a lot. We all had different insights and picked up different features of the book based on our experience and based on what we wanted to get out of the book. I learned that everyone can get something different out of the same book based on what they want to find or whether they have an open mind to find what might be in the book. If someone only looks for the negative, scary, or bad parts of the book, that is all they will ever find and miss so much more that is included in any writing. So I challenge everyone to read books with open minds and encourage them to discuss the books with others, to learn more about what the book has to offer. I feel the process that was established to review a book on behalf of the Hudsonville community was a well-established process that Ms. Taylor followed very effectively and all members of the committee engaged actively. I will say I also learned a lot about the legal guidance on banning books or limiting access to books, which makes it very clear what direction should be taken no matter what someone's thoughts about a book are. I read this book thoroughly and even did research on the topic of the fight for Civil War, which I knew nothing about. Half a Yellow Sun also had many good concepts that should not be overlooked. Some of the points that stuck with me was the importance of family and how they support each other through the good and bad times. The sisters who were educated and were influential in very male-dominated worlds of business and education in Africa. The encouraging words from Alana's priest to offer forgiveness, not for him, but to allow herself happiness. And Alana's Annie, who commented that men do not define a woman. She is her own person. Those are encouraging words of hope that people can get out of something. Most importantly, the constant insinuations to the power of communication and misinformation and what can result, which truly relates to what happens every day.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Anyone else? Okay. With that, we will go to board roundtable and then to closed session. So, Mr. Kathinga, anything you'd like to?
Nope, I'm ready for negotiations.
Okay.
Yeah, I've talked enough tonight. I just wanted to say, I heard something mention about a 7-0 vote on the book. I never voted yes on any book, just to be clear.
So last week I had the opportunity to attend a school safety summit. And at that conference, the main speaker was a teacher and administrator who survived the Sandy Hook school shooting. My takeaway from that summit, after listening to some of the special speakers as well as law enforcement, is that physical safety cannot be separated from healthy social and emotional communities. And I'm very grateful for Dr. Vanderjack, as well as our safety director, Mike Petrulia, our liaison officer, Ryan Potma, for all the work that they do behind the scenes that we don't even know about to keep our kids physically safe.
Just want to say congratulations again to all the retirees from tonight. Welcome to all the new teachers, and Heidi, welcome. I've got relatives in the building who are very much looking forward to having you as the principal. So an exciting night to see fresh new faces coming into Hudsonville, but a difficult night too in seeing so many years of experience and talent transitioning into the next phase. So hopefully those retiring will continue to stay close to the district.
Okay, and I'll just add one last comment. Thank you to Mr. Beal and to Ms. McClure, for hosting me during Staff Appreciation Days. It was great to be in the buildings, great to see what was going on, great to see what our kids are involved with and learning. So thank you for that. Okay, we will now go into closed session. I would suspect we'll be there 30 to 45 minutes. You are all welcome to stay. The only thing we're going to do when we leave closed session is adjourn, but you're welcome to stay. But with that, can I have a motion, please, to go into closed session to discuss bargaining? Mr. Davis, motion? Support from Don Steeden. Okay, roll call, Larry? Larry?
Yes.
Yes. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we are in closed session. Thank you, everyone. We do appreciate you being here. In the comments? Okay, can I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
I move.
Motion by Mark. Motion by Larry. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
We are adjourned.
9:46. Thank you, everyone.